Perdue joins us now. He sits on the Armed Services Committee and the Budget Committee. Senator, good morning to you. Thank you. And Bill's going to join us, too, out in Hanoi for this conversation. But if you could, the last we checked, $22 trillion our national debt has reached. What is the message at CPAC? What are we going to do about it?
Well, I think this president has called this out before, but as you said just 2 weeks ago, our national debt ticked over to $22 trillion. And more draconian than that, Sandra, is that over the next 30 years alone, we have $130 trillion of unfunded future liabilities of this federal government. That's $1 million per household. President Trump came in 2 years ago and said, we've got to grow the economy. Well, there were two benefits of that. One is you put people back to work, but two is you get federal revenue from growth to help offset this growing debt. Now, in the last 2 years, we've started an economic revival here that we believe over the next 10 years lowers the debt curve by about $3 trillion. And yet, over the next decade, unless we do something, we're going to add another $10 trillion to a $22 trillion debt. That can't happen.
Andy Biggs, who's sponsoring this legislation to declare the $22 trillion debt a security threat, says that the United States is racing towards a fiscal cliff. I know that you were quoted also in this article saying that bureaucrats and career politicians aren't even blinking an eye at that. Why is that?
Well, look, the easiest way to get reelected, and you've got career politicians who give money away, basically. We spend federal dollars, and it makes it easy to get reelected. The problem is, with this size debt, the interest rate increases of the last 2 years have caused our interest expense to go up $450 billion. Now, put that in perspective, discretionary spending is about the same as it was in 2009, but that's only about 25% of what we spend. The other 75% are mandatory expenditures. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, pension and benefits for federal employees, and the interest on the debt. There's our problem.
It is a big problem indeed, and at the same time, a lot of talk on the left from progressives about socialist policies. And I know you'll be talking a lot about that this morning. I want to bring in my co-host Bill Hemmer from Hanoi to join the conversation. Bill.
Yes, sir. One of the main headlines from Chairman Kim today is that he actually took a question from a reporter. I don't know if you're aware or not of that. It happened about 10 hours ago here in Vietnam. The reporter's question is, are you willing to denuclearize? And he said, I would not be here if I was not willing. Where do you think the state of play is for these negotiations is at the moment, sir?
Well, we were all hopeful that we might get some sort of an agreement in a signing ceremony. But, you know, let's be realistic. This is a process. I give President Trump and his team a lot of credit that they brought Kim Jong-un to the table, and I believe that we will eventually get there. It's a process. We can't give up our sanctions. I support the president in that. We need to see measurable results. We need to put inspectors on the ground, and I believe we will get there. I believe that North Korea and South Korea and the United States all want the total denuclearization of the peninsula, and I believe we'll get there.
Do you believe Chairman Kim is willing to give up 30 nuclear weapons in his possession?
I think if we make the incentive strong enough, he will have to do that. I've been over there, Bill. I've seen the refugees coming out of North Korea. Our sanctions are working. It's a dire state there. And I believe that he really ought to be willing to rejoin the community of nations. And the way to do that is to make a deal with the United States and get rid of those nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Have you considered the alternative? What if he goes back to testing? What if he fires off a missile? Or a rocket or something worse, an ICBM?
Well, I think the president has said this before, that one of the measures of progress is that over the last year and a half, we have not seen that, and that's a major step. If he goes backwards, then obviously the sanctions can be increased. There are a number of other options, and the president has said before, all the options are on the table. We will not allow North Korea to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, Senator, thank you for answering those. Sandra's got more back there in New York.
Senator Perdue, I've got to ask you about trade. We were just talking to Maria Bartiromo here about the growing optimism that a deal will get done. The president's been working with China on this. The markets seem to be predicting something will get done. Robert Lighthizer, the U.S. trade representative, sounding like this. Listen to this first.
We are making real progress. If we can complete this effort, and again I say if, and can reach a satisfactory solution to the all-important outstanding issue of enforceability, as well as some other concerns, we might be able to have an agreement that helps us turn the corner in our economic relationship with China.
And Senator Perdue, he's now talking about dropping this threat to raise tariffs to 25% on those $200 billion of Chinese goods. What are you hearing on this?
Well, I'm very encouraged because that means we're making substantive progress. I think by having Secretary Mnuchin and Lighthizer over there recently negotiating is another positive sign. I used to live over there and worked over there. I've dealt with quota and duty my whole career. I can tell you that this is going to take time, though, and I don't want to create a false expectation that we're going to solve all these problems in the next 30 or 60 days. I think this is a beginning of a process. The Chinese are indicating and performing in a way that make us believe that they really want to get to a level trading playing field, and that's what the president is trying to do.
Senator Perdue, what would ultimately make those trade negotiations a success?
Well, I think the equal access is a beginning. If we took certain products and categories and started opening up their markets in a way that we've not seen before, that's a great first step. The other is compliance with WTO. The theft of U.S. technology, the forced transfer of technology and joint ventures, I've been a victim of that. I think those are two of the early steps that we could see coming out of China that would be terribly, terribly encouraging.
Sounds like a lot of enthusiasm from that crowd there behind you at CPAC as it's underway now, Senator.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, Senator Perdue, we appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Thank you, Senator.